You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison for the usual busy show. Ashes, what ashes? England's attention now turns quickly to their white ball tour of Sri Lanka, with every ball of that tour live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2. We'll look ahead to the three ODIs and the three T20s, discuss how important that tour is for Harry Brook and Brendan McCullum, and a few others. Rex Clementine, the chief cricket writer from the Island newspaper, will join us live from Colombo. We'll also debate if T20 franchise cricket has saved the longer format of the game. And as always, we'll round up the week's other big stories and bring you the final word. So plenty to come over the next hour. This is Following On. Right, Harmy, let's have a look at these squads. It's interesting that three ODIs are being played as well as three T20s, and they didn't go for more T20s, given that it's only a week before the T20 World Cup begins. So let's have a quick look at the ODI squad. Zach Crawley and Will Jacks come into that, with Jofra Archer, Sonny Baker, and Jamie Smith missing out from the last ODI squad. Crawley's an interesting one, isn't it? But more interesting is the fact that England won 4 out of 15 ODIs. We were talking ad nauseam through 2025 about how bad England had become at ODI cricket. And they've got to start putting that right, because they are going to have to pre-qualify for the World Cup if they don't.
Yeah, they need to win some games. They need to win some games, and I think we need to win some convincing games as well to give themselves some confidence going forward. Um, I look at the ODI squad, and I understood the Zach Crawley in New Zealand, and I thought it was good. Well, it was potentially good planning. If you're going to send the majority of the Test boys to New Zealand, you might as well send Zach as well. But I don't know how or where he's getting the recognition from in 50 over cricket or white ball cricket to warrant to justify a place in the 50 over side. Possibly because they're in a position where they've only won 4 out of 15 games and they're potentially going to have to qualify. So, yeah, I mean, you look down the squad, it's a relatively same squad that they've had for quite a while. Different types of challenges in Sri Lanka as opposed to when they were in New Zealand. And you look at the group and you think, they're going to play 2 fast bowlers and 3 spin bowlers because it will, likely be slow, low, and turning. Will Rian Ahmed get his chance to stake a claim in the sort of the longer format of white ball cricket? But I think all in all, England have got pretty much everybody they need to be there, or that's available, that's good enough to be there, apart from Jofra Archer. And when we come on to the T20 conversation, not so much for the Sri Lankan leg of it, but boy, do they need Jofra for the World T20, because I actually think they're a bowler short for the World T20. And if Jofra doesn't play, I think that could be the game changer and potentially even qualifying for the Super 8s. I don't think that then they'll have too much chance of qualifying for the semi-finals if somewhere like Jofra's not in. Yes, I'm talking about a seam bowler in subcontinent conditions, but you know yourself, Manners. You've followed cricket far and long and far enough that one fast bowler, that X factor bowler, the Mitchell Stark. I know he's not going to be there, but a Pat Cummins, a Kagisa Rabada, a Jasprit Bumrah, a Jofra Archer, 3-4 overs, 2 at the start, 1 close towards the end, 1 right at the very end. They make a difference in big situations, and I think not having Jofra in this team, potentially for the T20 World Cup, I think that could be another nail in the coffin of Brendan McCullum.
Well, let's talk about the T20 squad then, and the makeup of the side. I read a very interesting article, a compelling article by Katia Whitney on the Wisden website, suggesting that Ben Duckett should be rested for the T20 World Cup. She wrote very well about his form at the tail end of the India Test series last summer, how it's fallen away, how he's looks out of condition, lacking a bit of conditioning. He hasn't scored a 50 for a long time, and then she points out that he's one of the players with a IPL contract, so he's going to go on this Sri Lanka tour, then the T20 World Cup, then the IPL, then 6 test matches in the summer, then the 100, and then a white ball series at the end of that, 2 white ball series at the
Mm.
end in September. He's literally not going to get a break until October, and I think something's coming up then as well.
Yeah.
But especially with Sultan Butler pretty much inked into open, so it's a good time to have a rest. And in fact, the point she makes is that it's the only time to have a rest.
Yeah, I get that, and it was. I read that article, and it was the points were, well put, very valid. What else is he going to do though? This is the thing from me. If I was Ben Duckett, what else do you want me to do? Sit at home? I mean, going to the nets at Nottingham when it's freezing cold, potentially going back with a big coat on and in a marquee on the field at Trent Bridge if they've
You
got
could
one.
change. You could change some nappies.
Yeah, he could be a father. Yes, I get away from the scrutiny. The one thing I will say is when you are a professional sports man or woman and you are going through difficult times, the last thing somebody wants to tell you is go and have a rest. I mean, it is, because it's like, I'm trying to put it right. I'm doing my very best. Yes, if and it's a big if Ben Duckett is lacking a bit of conditioning, that can be worked on while he's there, especially in the shortest format games, because he's not having to field for 6.5 hours. His fitness can improve while he's on this white ball tour. But if you're Ben Duckett, I want to bat. I'll get myself back into form by scoring runs. Can't do that at home changing nappies. Can't do that at home at Knots in the freezing cold on the tent at Trent Bridge or the indoor school. I might not have a break further down the line. So what? I'm just come off the back of the Ashes. Give me the bat. Give me my gloves. Give me a chance to go in the middle and put it right. Because at the end of the day, I'm the only one that can put it right. And I think if that's what I hope Ben Duckett is saying to, and I know for a fact he will be, what he'd be saying to Harry Brook, Brendan McCullum and Rob Key, that I am one of the best players in this team. I am having a bit of a confidence crisis, but I still want to be front and centre. So if I'm playing, I will do everything I possibly can to get myself back into form and in scoring runs, because I still believe, Stephen Harmison still believes, that Ben Duckett is still one of our best players in all formats of the game, especially at the top of the order. Now, you have got Butler and Salt, but I still think there's a place for Duckett in that side, in the top 3, with Brookett, Ford, Bethel, Curran and Jacks in that middle order. So, yes, he is got a long journey ahead of him, but I think I would rather rest him when he's scoring a few runs towards the back end of the summer in white ball cricket rather than on the eve of a big world tournament.
Okay, well, there's 2 or 3 things to mention there. We haven't spoken about Sam Curran for a while. I think we're both still very fond of him as a cricketer. Believe that that he's got a lot to offer. And his team, he captained the Desert Vipers to the ILT20 title. So he's been playing cricket. He's in form. England have won 7 of their last 8 completed T20s. So I mean, I think it's reasonable to expect them to to feature strongly. At least I hope they do. I mean, Harry Brook as captain, how he's got to get his mind right, hasn't he? After the controversies of the Ashes, and this is a 3-in-1 question, Harmy. Josh Tongue, does he strike you? I mean, we're both massive fans of Gus Atkinson. We didn't think that he was particularly a T20 bowler. Is Josh Tongue? I mean, he's played a lot domestically, but how do you feel about him in the T20 squad?
The Josh Tongue one's an interesting one because he might have to take over the mantle of Jofra Archer, and I can't believe Jofra will be fit. Having had side strains myself and bowlers with side strains, he left that tour end of November, December, and it's an 8-week minimum before you start bowling again. So the degree of how injured he was to where he can get himself in a position to play in a world tournament, especially when you've got a lot of games in this tournament. It's not a short, sharp tournament anymore. I can't believe Jofra will be fit for that. So Josh Tongue could be really, really instrumental on England, because he might be the one that, I know Carter's the replacement, but Josh Tongue might be the spearhead that has to bowl them wicket-taking overs in the sort of start, the middle, and possibly towards the end. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fits into all this. Sam, when you mentioned Harry Brook, I mean, Harry Brook just needs to go back and, earn the trust of being England captain and scoring some runs. That's it. We've all made mistakes. Harry's made a mistake. He's owned up to the mistake. He's been heavily fined. He's been heavily criticised. I've seen that film many times before. I've starred in it many times before. It is not a very nice place. But if you're grounded, if you're humbled, if you keep your feet firmly on the ground, there's only one way, and you only have the chance in your own hands to answer them questions that people are, or the accusations or the criticism that people are throwing at you, and that's by your performance and your actions. So he is England captain. He is one of our best players, and he's got a world stage to sort it, to fulfill his skill sets. Where a lot of people in that part of the world question how good is Harry Brook, because he didn't go the IPL. He didn't have the greatest IPL when he was there. He hasn't had a great time against India. So for me, with everything that's been thrown at Harry Brook in the last 6 weeks, whether he's had this weird, because he's known about what's got to happen in New Zealand, before it all came out, and he's had that on his shoulders, and you can see that it's time for Harry to stand up, show by his action, show by his performance what a world-class performer he is, and I'm backing him to do that. So the other side of it is, if he doesn't, then will Sam Curran be the one that does take the England captaincy if Harry Brook makes another mistake? So we need Sam Curran to be in top form as well, and he has been in the ILT20.
Sri Lanka named a preliminary 25-man squad. England didn't do that. They have named a provisional 15-man squad. If they had named a 25-man squad, I'm sure Jordan Cox would have been in it. Is he unlucky?
I think he is. I think he's unlucky, or you can put his name into the Sam Cook bracket of, we've seen here, we feel as though there's something not quite right, and we don't think you're ready or up to the task of playing at the highest level, whether that was the short ball stuff or whatever. But he hasn't done anything wrong whenever he's represented England. When he's played in the big franchise tournaments, he stood out. So there's something not quite there with Jordan Cox. Because if you look at a Jordan Cox or a Zach Crawley, there'll be people wondering, well, hold on, there's somebody who goes in white ball cricket, scores, big games and franchise tournaments, scores runs, and you leave him out. And Zach doesn't play too many white ball franchise tournaments because he's playing Test match cricket for England, averages 30, and he's in. So there's something that I think, along with this, there was one or two in that boat. This sort of the Sam Cooks, Jordan Cox might be in that boat, that England sees something in him, or McCullum sees something in him he doesn't fancy.
Right, it's time to go to Colombo and talk to Rex Clementine, chief cricket writer of the Island newspaper. Rex, brilliant to have you back. You're looking very well, and I see there's no rain behind you, so that's always a good thing in cricket season. It's interesting, there's this perception amongst English followers that this tour's been hastily arranged as a warm-up for the T20 World Cup, but actually it's postponed from about 5 or 6 years ago, wasn't it? It was a COVID cancellation or postponement.
Yeah, I think in August or July last year, they were initially talking about, playing about 5 T20s and 3 ODIs. Then there was a delay on the part of the Sri Lankan board to confirm the dates, and therefore, we ended up with 3 ODIs and 3 T20s. It would have been ideal, 5 T20s before the World Cup. That's what New Zealand are doing right now in India. That would have been ideal if both teams had that many games to play, but that's what it is, and we'll have to live with whatever we have.
Rex, it's a big squad, 25-man provisional squad for the World T20 and for this series. Are we going to have any surprises, any big omissions? We've got a different captain. See, Shanaka's captain now.
Yeah, you never know with the Sri Lankan setup. They could, spring up surprise us by bringing in players that we don't think could be featuring at all. So, I mean, we got to wait till they announce their final squad. A lot of people are surprised that they got got rid of Charita Salanka. The team was making progress under him. It's like they're not taking giant strides, but there was slow progress when it comes to T20 cricket with Charit. Really surprised that, I mean, just before 6 weeks before the World Cup, that he was kept aside and the Sushanak has been brought in. There are question marks about the Sushanaka's place in the side. Anyway, I mean, I've been covering cricket, Sri Lankan cricket for the last 25 years, so nothing surprising.
I'm going to ask you about the geopolitics of the region in just a moment. But before I do, I just thought I'd warn you. Before I do, Niroshan Dikwela is a name I haven't seen for years. I remember watching him make his debut. It must have been over 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Where's he been? And I thought he'd retired.
Yeah, I mean, even I was taken by surprise when they named him, and I don't think I mean, he will come into the eventual squad. But then, yeah, that's what the scenario back in Sri Lanka is. We know in past World Cups, people who were I mean, nowhere near suddenly I mean, turned up in World Cup squads. I assume that you guys would remember Eoin Morgan's famous sentiments during the 2019 World Cup when he was asked about the surprise package, whether it's Jofra Archer as a surprise package. He said, Sri Lanka as a surprise package. There are about half a dozen guys, whom I have no idea, where they came from. So, yeah, it's sad in a way, but then that's the reality, and we got to live with it.
And what about the region? I mean, Sri Lanka's had its problems politically and economically over the years, but I tell you what, it still seems like a bastion of calm and peace compared to the India, Pakistan, now Bangladesh situation. What do you make of that? I mean, it's interesting because while India and Pakistan remain in their current impasse, Sri Lanka is going to be a co-host pretty much every time India hosts a world event. Yeah, and now, I mean, the Bangladesh situation, are they going to forfeit points? Are they going to play their games in Sri Lanka?
I think, hearing from Bangladesh journalists and people who are sort of close to their board, it seems that they are quite happy to come and play in Sri Lanka. And I hear that there is a backup plan. Colombo now has two flooded grounds, SC and Premadasa. So SSC is the backup plan in case something happens. But I'm also made to understand that India is pretty adamant to keep the Bangladesh games in there. So because you see, this is not just one-off game. I mean, you got to move teams, and I mean, it's a logistic nightmare. So they will be remaining in India. Maybe I mean, not at the venues that they had predicted earlier. Maybe I mean, they'll move some of the venues, but the games will stick around in India. I keep telling my Indian friends that Sri Lanka is the only friendly neighbor that they have at the moment, with both Pakistan and Bangladesh not in good terms.
And Rex, where do you see Sri Lanka's strengths for the England series and for the T20 World Cup? They're in a group with Australia, Ireland, Zimbabwe, and Oman, so they've got a good chance of getting through to the Super 8s there. But where do you see the sort of strengths and weaknesses of the Sri Lankan team obviously in the shortest format tournament?
Yeah, I mean, they would be fancying their chances to get to the second round. Their strength is their spin attack. They've got, I mean, some very strong spin options. The pace bowling department has been doing reasonably well in recent years. The only worry is that batting can be a little bit dodgy. I mean, they could lose a couple of early wickets. Then they can collapse. We saw that in the first game against Pakistan, where they were bowled out in 19.2 overs. And this has been, I mean, like, not a one-off thing. It has been happening frequently. That's one area probably they want to sort of, think about. I think they need to get their combination right. They've made progress with players like Kusal Janit Pereira and Kamilu Mendis in the last 2 years. In this the recent series against Pakistan, I did not see both of them getting a chance to play, although they were part of the squad. the last minute changes is not going to happen. Whatever that you want to do, if you want to do changes, you've got to do it after a World Cup, not just before a tournament. And that's going to be a recipe for disaster if you do that.
South Africans have been gobsmacked at Tirindu Ratnayaka, the ambidextrous spinner, bowling his off breaks and his slow left arm. He's been playing in the SA20. Is he in the 25-man squad, and is he likely to feature? And I mean, it looks to me like he does actually genuinely bowl them almost as good as each other. Where's he in the setup?
Yeah, that's the thing, Neil. I mean, there was a time when the selectors used to give mystery a little bit of chance. I mean, people with not only just mystery, people with this X factor, the Malingas, Jayasuryas, Murlis, they got, I mean, elsewhere in the world, I don't know whether, they would have got a chance to go on. And people like Ratnayaka, yes, they could have sort of, taken a look at, but I don't think, he will feature in the lineup, although he made his, he's sort of a late developer, he made his test debut last year, did all right against Bangladesh, and in domestic, he plays for Tamil Union in domestic cricket, and has had a very good couple of seasons, and captained them in the last season, I think. And I mean, if not for this World Cup, maybe, in future events, it can be considered, but you're right. I mean, against teams that don't play spin all that well, he can be a good option, and he's not a bad batsman as well.
And Rex, just finally from me, I mean, we mentioned earlier about this being a rescheduled series since obviously the COVID outbreak. How much are the Sri Lankan people looking forward to having England, because they're going to have the World T20 games there, and that's a global event, a great thing. But England, it's always special when England come to town.
Yeah, it's always special. You know how it is, Stephen. You toured Sri Lanka in 2007 with that test squad. And usually it's, 5,000 people from UK representing the Barmy Army come during the test matches. But now I think they've got a taste of one-day cricket as well, given England's excellent run in white ball cricket. And usually when white ball cricket happen, not a single journalist from UK turns up. Whereas, organizations send 2 journalists per paper for the test series. But this time, I think the England journalists are going to outnumber the Sri Lankan journalists. And there's quite a bit of demand for match tickets as well. And I think you'll see a lot of British spectators.
Right, Harmy, let's talk about T20 franchise cricket and its relationship with Test cricket. It's interesting. Just for context, Eoin Morgan on a podcast told Mark Butcher, who was interviewing him, that, we'll play the clip. I just want to say that it was paid for and sponsored by the main title sponsor of the SA20 in South Africa. But this is what Eoin Morgan had to say about that relationship.
I think if the shortest format of the game didn't exist, if IPL never happened, if no other franchise league in the world existed, I think cricket would end up dying in a ditch. The level of popularity would decline. Trying to sell a 5-day game or just a 1-day game, in particular to young kids now, is very, very tough.
That's a man Steve Harmison describes as one of England's greatest ever captains in any format. Eoin Morgan talking to Mark Butcher on Sky. As I said, Harmy, it was sponsored by the title sponsor of the SA20, so you would kind of expect him to say that anyway. But he strongly worded, and it's clearly something that he believes. It made me clench my buttocks. I felt very uncomfortable when he said it, and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. But I think there's a possibility that he's right.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a huge amount of time for Eoin Morgan, respect, and I do believe he's one of the best captains that England have ever produced. And there is a lot of truth to what he's saying. But say of Test match cricket, I think it's hindered Test match cricket, to be honest, some of the franchise stuff, because of the technical aspect of batting. I think it's improved the bowling of Test match cricket because of all the skills that you've had to do. The wobble seems to come more prominent in the game. I think the way that that bowlers can change their lengths with ease. I don't think it's helped batters play the longer format of the game. I think it's brought money into the game, which is good. It's got different sets of eyes on it. Virat Kohli said when he won the IPL about Test match cricket is the best format of the game. And I love Eoin Morgan, and I think, and to be fair to him, he wasn't saying this just because he was on an earner or he was doing something for the sponsors. I have heard Eoin Morgan, both on air and off air, talk about the way he talks about sort of the shortest format of the game, and these are his beliefs. And excellent, fantastic for him. I have my comments and largely put my foot in it at times, and he has his opinions. That's what this game is about. Brilliant game is about opinions. I don't fully agree with everything that he's saying, but I agree with parts of it that it has. I look at franchise cricket and I see franchise cricket it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's bringing a lot of money into the game, which is fantastic. But Test match cricket has to be the main focus for players from each country to aspire to be the best they possibly can. At this moment in time, for me, franchise cricket it's a retirement ground, which didn't happen in the past. In my time and Goffey's time and the time before, where you were finished at 33, 34, you went and got a job. You didn't go on the retirement gravy train, pension fund pot to do that. Or, and this is my biggest gripe with probably franchise cricket, a lot of the players in franchise cricket aren't good enough to play Test match cricket. So yes. The reason that's where probably me and Eoin will disagree. That I think franchise cricket is there for players who have had their time. When A.B. de Villiers, Chris Gale, and one or two others just retired from cricket and went and played franchise cricket, they earned the right to do that because they played 100 Test matches. That's no problem. If in 5 years' time, I'm looking at somebody like, trying to think of a top T20 player, somebody like Nicholas Pooran. If we're looking at Nicholas Pooran and we're saying that's the benchmark for greatness in cricket, and not Stephen Smith and not Joe Root, then cricket's gone. You might as well switch the lights off.
It is such an underappreciated reality and truth that many of the players who we deride for not being not choosing not to play Test cricket, it's such a massive assumption. What are we saying? That they're good enough? And do you know what, Harmy? There are many young players who just know that they struggle in a 4-day game. They struggle in red ball cricket. And, so they may say, I'm just going to be a one day specialist or a limited over specialist. And we say, oh, shame on you. Well, and even later on in life, Jamie Overton said, I can't do it. My body can't do it. I'm not available for the Ashes. And we said, oh, shame on you. But his body wasn't up to it. Some people aren't good enough to play Test cricket. And I was speaking about this to Eric Simons, who's been on this show a couple of times, former South African coach, one of the best coaches now. He's been in the IPL for 10 years with the Chennai Super Kings. He's with the Joburg Super Kings in the SA20. I spoke to him about this and about red ball cricket and first class cricket. And he said, I can tell, even with a designated T20 specialist, I can tell almost, to within half a dozen games how many red ball games they've played, because you learn more about your game with the bat and the ball in four-day games than you will in 50 T20s. He said that the best T20 players are always those who have played a meaningful number of red ball games.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And like I said before, if the barometer of the best players in the world in a few years' time not be the player like a well-rounded Joe Root who can play all formats of the game, Stephen Smith who played all formats of the game, even the best T20 players the Chris Gales, the A.B. de Villiers. I mean, they're averaging 40 in Test match cricket, over 100 Test matches. I think sometimes we get carried away, by the razzmatazz and the glitz and the lights and the money. That, the best form of the game is still Test match cricket, and I still think that there is a place for all. And I think heads like Eoin Morgan and one or two others can put themselves in a position to try and get the calendar in a better place. And if they do that, we'll have a great game, because I think we've got a great product. I really do think in the world of cricket, we've got a great product. I just think we've got far too many who want to pull it in different directions. If we can get it in the same directions, where the red ball exists, coincides with the white ball, I think we'll produce much better players. We'll make more money. The product will be better. But at the minute, there's a lot of everybody looking after themselves, Jack. And it's nearly as bad as what county cricket is in England, where there's a lot of, like we heard last week, of Farby. There's a lot of people looking after their own little slice of the pie and not looking at the bigger pie in a bigger picture. And I think, unfortunately, it's been like that since I started playing cricket. Will it ever change? Probably not. But Eoin Morgan has got the right, and he's earned the right to have his opinion. And there's a lot of it rings true. But some of it I disagree with, because my philosophies and my ideals about Test match cricket.
Harmy, those opinions and his views were aimed as much about spectators and audiences as they were about players. And he used the gateway argument, which is, one that you and I know and have heard many, many times over, that it's a way to attract new audiences, and it's a gateway into other forms of cricket. So you get the kids with the candy floss, and then you introduce them to the vegetables later on.
100% agree with that. But the problem I've got with that, and that's what I'm trying to say, at this moment in time, the gateway sometimes has an ocean in the middle of it, and we can't get to the next gateway, i.e. the shortest format isn't sending it towards the next format and the longest format. And the biggest example for me in this country is, the marketing people from the 100 come out about a month before the 100, have the 100, and you don't see them again. They're not channeling the supporters that they've brought into the game towards the T20 Blast, the 50-over competition, where you're going to see some of the best young players at their youngest age, because in 4 years' time, you're going to see them in the 100, or see them in the Blast, then see them in the 100, and then push them towards the longer format of the game. And that is the frustrating side of it to me, is there is a gateway, but sometimes the gate gets closed every now and again, and we're not pushing them in the directions where you're fulfilling your potential in a country for your whole cricket environment.
Justin Langer will coach the Manchester Originals in the 100 this year, and announced the appointment by declaring that he intended to become besties with Jos Buttler. Bryden Castle and Harry Brook have been retained by Sunrisers Leeds. I don't know whether that sticks in your throat, but you have to get used to it, as we warned you last year, for the 2026 edition of the 100, with both Nat Skibber-Brunt and Tim David have signed for the Trent Rockets. Moeen Ali signed for Yorkshire. How about that? We thought that he was going to see out his contract. I think he thought he was going to see out his contract with the Warwickshire Bears in the Blast, and that would be it. But no, he's moved to Dubai in order to concentrate on his franchise career, and he signed for Yorkshire. Well, that'll do for now, Harmy.
Yeah, that's a big signing. That it really is. I mean, it's a statement signing for Yorkshire. He is a top player still. Mo is still a top player, and the experience he gives. They needed to sign somebody, I think, Yorkshire, when they lost Milan. I think it was important that they got some experience, whether it was from an overseas player or from a domestic player. So I think Milan left a massive void in that Yorkshire dressing room in the shortest format of the game. So Moeen signs for that. Mo signs for them. And then you've got obviously him and Adil Rashid back together again if they do get to play as much. I mean, the Bryden cast, the Harry Brook one, I couldn't stop laughing when you said Sunrisers Leeds. I can't wait for the Yorkshire faithful and the members at Yorkshire to come in with their orange shirts on. I mean, it will be hilarious. It will be. I think they had I want to say, Huggy, you'll have to remind me, I think it was 98 or 99 in the Pro 40 League. I think they had like a little bit of an orange. It was like orangey pink Yorkshire tea on the front. I think they won the Friends. I think they might have won the 50 over competition that year. So they have sort of gone with untraditional colours, but Yorkshire, the most traditional county in the world, is going to go full on tangerine, orange. It's going to be great to see. So yeah, and it's good. And you mentioned Langer there. I thought Andrew Flintoff might have popped up. I've not spoke to Fred for a while, so don't know the ins and outs of what's going on from whether he is looking to get back into the sort of English domestic cricket as opposed to just looking after the Lions. But when the Originals coach job came up, I wondered if it was the sort of bring back the sort of the hero of Flintoff, and that would be a good ticket at Old Trafford. But unfortunately, whether it was a conversation or not, I don't know. But Langer, to be fair to Justin, fair to Alfie, he's been trying very hard during the Ashes to get a job in England, and he's got one.
All right, quickly on to a couple of Somerset stories. Mark Stoneman has signed as their batting coach on the recommendation of Marcus Trescothick, who said he's brilliant at working with young players. Talking of whom, James Rue has renewed his contract with Somerset, but only for 1 year, which means that he's free to talk to other counties on the 1st of June, I think. That's always confused me, that. Why is the cut-off moratorium date the 1st of June? I mean, if you signed for the season, you would have thought that it would be somewhere towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think the cut-off it's mainly put in for, I think it's a good idea. It's mainly put in for the players who is more or less going to get released, who's out of the first team, more in with the second team. And if you were a player, Manners, and you weren't getting a game in the first team, you're constantly playing second team cricket, and the 1st of June comes and somebody comes up with a potential package for you next year, there's always an opportunity for you to go on loan for the last 2 months of the season and then just go into your natural progression of contract at a new place. So I think that's the right thing to do. I'm not sure if it's capped in age. It should be capped in age, probably of about 23 to 25, because that would be a good idea. Why James Rue's only signed a 1 year contract I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if it's for sort of franchise elements of it. Is it the fact that he's, they couldn't come to terms, agree with terms with the county and the representatives, and they've decided, right, he doesn't want to leave, so we'll, compromise the best option. We'll kick the can down the road until the start of next season, and we'll have conversations and get him ready start of June. So these are things we're speculating, but he's an exciting young talent who might find themselves come the 1st of June be on the lips of England selectors to take James Smith's place.
Well, I was going to say he didn't strike either of us as a hard-nosed contract negotiator when we had him on the show last summer, did he?
No, unless his brother did it. Unless his brother did it for him.
I was thinking agent. That's an agent.
Yeah, agents must have been. And great to see Rocky still in the game. I mean, a huge amount of affection for Mark Stoneman. I love the bones of that lad, and I thought he would end up back up in Durham. I really thought he'd be back up in Durham, like Scott Borthwick did, play out the end of his career, be back at home where mum and dad are, and potentially go into a coaching role alongside, and the Lear would fit into that, especially with the academy director leaving at the end of last season. But he's gone to Somerset, and he's obviously, if he's well thought of, getting a recommendation from Trez. But he's a good kid, is Rocky, and I'm pleased he's still in the game because, the whole family. His dad was an absolute stalwart of a league cricketer. He used to bowl these 25 overs from one end. A lovely, lovely fella. Give you so much abuse, it would be ridiculous. And then sit at the end of the bar for the next 6 or 7 hours and drink about 10 or 12 pints. That's what Big Rock was like. So little Rocky, it's good to see him still in the game.
Okay, and here's my weekly dose of cynicism, Harmy. The final news item of the week is the retirement of Australian captain Alyssa Healy. And this, I think, sums up the difference between men's cricket and women's cricket, and in fact, probably men and women. Because she said, I'm still passionate about playing for Australia, but I've just lost that edge.
Mm.
And I couldn't help thinking of the number of men who
Yeah,
I've seen lose that edge and think, well, I'm not retiring now. They're gonna have to push me out.
yeah,
I'm not.
absolutely. Can I drag it out? Can I drag it out for one more year and bluff a chief executive to give us some money? And yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not as across the women's game as I am the men's game. Alyssa Healy's had a wonderful career, but I tell you what, she was during this Ashes. She was brilliant on commentary. The
Yes,
the
yes.
stuff I've seen on her podcasts and some of the I was flicking between the channels because I was getting a little bit sick of what I was watching from an English point of view. So I was getting cheered up by some of the Australian commentary. I thought Lisa was very good on commentary, so she might have lost her edge in the on the field, but I think there's a huge career ahead in the commentary front because I thought she was one of the shining lights of of commentators from Australia that I could put up with over the course of this last 7 weeks.
And the other great thing is that nobody on earth is able to take the mickey out of Mitchell Stark better than her.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's the only one, I think the only one that dared take the mickey out of Mitchell Stark the way he's been bolted over the course of the last sort of 6 weeks. But no, I'm really, really impressed on the balance, the tone, the way she spoke about the game, and just the realism. And when you're sitting there, still passionate about the game, lost the edge, you could hear that in the way she commentated. Very humble and very straightforward, to the point, and points were always very, very well made.
She was talking about the edge in her head, and,
Yeah,
and rather than with gloves or bat, so I can still do it, but you've got to really want it.
yeah,
And
100%.
just brilliant. Okay, it's that time, Harmy. It's the final word, and the first couple of items are my annual prompt to remind you again to lose 6 stone so that you can get back on the park and play with Charlie Harmison. So it's two father and son stories. You'd have seen them. Craig Cumming, who was brilliant on commentary
Yeah,
for us earlier on in the before the Ashes in the New Zealand games. Father and son combinations are not unusual. Well, they are unusual, but they're not unprecedented. But Craig Cummings has now got 2 sons, Jacob and Zach, who played T20 and both made their T20 debuts for Otago versus Wellington on Friday. It's the first case of father and 2 sons to have played T20 cricket. And that's not together. But there is a together story because Hassan Isakil and Mohammed Nabi became the first father and son duo to bat together in a top tier T20 league, playing for Nokali Express in the BPL. And they added 53 off just 30 balls together for the fourth wicket. So it's I think it's beyond Michael Vaughan to come out and play with Archie, but I'm not giving up on you and Charlie.
no, I'm giving up on me and Charlie. I must admit, I really am. There's no chance of me getting in a shirt. Not even. I mean, especially not the shirts to wear now. I mean, the sprayed on would be drawn on me. So no, it's great, and it is. It must be for everything you achieve in your own professional individual career. Yeah, it must be amazing to see when your sons come through, because if you've achieved something, then your sons is going to have to achieve something even more special because of the way the surname around the neck of the shoulders. So Archie's got it with Michael, Rocky's got it with Andrew. If the next generations come through, they will all have that. I remember Goffey talking about that about his boys. So to see sort of Jacob and Zach do that, and you're right, Craig Cummins was excellent for us on commentary. It's fantastic. And And I mean, how old is Mohammed Nabi now? He must be about 55, is he?
I think he's 44, 43.
44. I mean, yeah. I mean, the way Mohammed Nabi goes, I reckon he could play with his grandson. So, I mean, he just doesn't get any worse, does he? He's just.
No.
Well, I watched him again. Was it the last time? Just in a recent series. I've seen clips of him. He still looks, in good shape. He's still hitting balls, batting at number 6. He's not going down the order like one or two of the older ones are going to sort of 7s, 8s, and 9s. And he's still very, very relevant in the world of international top cricket. So good for him for that, and great that he got a chance to play with his son.
Actually, Scott's just told me he's only 41, but he did make his debut at 18. So he's been playing for he's 24 years.
Absolutely. But everything he's done, and we always make a joke of Mohammed Nabi of the amount of teams he's played against and the tracksuits he's worn and the levels he's had to come through. I reckon the most proudest thing he's ever achieved is probably playing with his son, and he's captained and he's done all sorts in the game. So fair play to him. And
the final word belongs to an Australian all-rounder, Chris Green. Do you remember when we had David Visa, another all-rounder, on the show, and he played in 8 T20 tournaments in a calendar year? Do you remember? And he got a late call up to the IPL, and that was his 8th. So he played a whole year, and he came on to talk about what it was like. Chris Green has put that record to shame. He's just played in his 10th tournament in the last 8 months. 10 tournaments in 8 months. He's an off-spinning all-rounder, for those of you who don't know. He's just joined the SA20 in South Africa, coming from the BBL. This all began with the Blast. He then played in... who did he play for in Division 2, the County Championship? Lancashire, right. The 100, the CPL, the Sheffield Shield, the Hong Kong Sixes, the Abu Dhabi T10, the BBL. 10 tournaments in 8 months.
I mean, that's that. Not only is that air miles, I mean, he's not getting a bad seat on a plane now, going around the world like that. And he's also having, his collection of tracksuits must be unbelievable. Not sure excess baggage, and not sure what to put on. I mean, his garage must be stored full of just brand new kit, because he doesn't seem to have them on long enough before he's changing them for something else. But I mean, again, we've spoke at the top of the show the middle of the show about what Eoin Morgan said. Whether you feel, a test match cricket and people aren't good enough to play test match cricket shouldn't be playing cricket. I am not saying that for 1 minute. I'm saying cricket is there for all to play. I think there's a degree of level of what I believe is greatness in the game of cricket. I believe Joe Root's greatness. I believe Stephen Smith's greatness. But the world that we live in now, compared to what I had and Goffey had in the years prior, we didn't have these T20 leagues, the money leagues, that all the chances of the young players to come and brighten the horizon of this great game. So that's where I agree with Eoin Morgan. And Chris Green is a prime example of that, because he's having a chance of now playing 10 leagues around the world, like an international cricketer, and being away for so long, but also being able to play in some wonderful, wonderful countries that love the game of cricket.